Apartheid means separateness in Afrikaans. This system of segregation became a policy that was enforced by South Africa's nationalist government from early 1948 until it was brought to an end in 1994. Under the apartheid system, different races were kept apart in different schools, different towns, different jobs, with different medical facilities and staff. There were two sets of laws, one for each group of citizens. From the end of World War I and during the Second World War, the growing South African apartheid movement and that of the Zionists had a close relationship, and in 1948 South Africa was one of the first nations to recognize Israel. When turning down Chaim Weizmann's offer to become Israel's first president, Albert Einstein wrote these prophetic words: "Should we be unable to find a way to honest cooperation and honest pacts with the Arabs, then we shall have learnt absolutely nothing during our 2,000 years of suffering and deserve all that will come to us." Notwithstanding Einstein's ominous warning, during the 1960s, South Africa and Israel became even closer in ideology and mutual cooperation, and many experts believe that Israel took part in South Africa's nuclear weapons program, although there is no firm evidence to suggest that any tests were carried out. In 2002, the practice of apartheid became criminalized under a statute of the International Criminal Court in Rome, being described as inhumane acts of a character similar to other crimes against humanity committed in the context of an institutionalized regime of systematic oppression and domination by one racial group over any other racial group or groups. It lists such crimes as murder, enslavement, deprivation of physical liberty, forced relocation, sexual violence, and collective persecution. 2 years later, in 2004, the Zionist government of Israel began building the infamous separation wall, in reality an apartheid structure which surrounds, isolates, and economically strangles the Palestinians in the territories where they are effectively imprisoned by it. Of course, the Israelis deny these allegations, stating that the wall is a security wall, not an apartheid wall, even though the discrimination has taken much further, with the enforcement of identification cards and other restrictions, often resulting in the deaths of pregnant Palestinian women and their unborn babies, whose passages to a hospital have been delayed by these grossly discriminatory procedures. But as though all that were not enough, the Israelis are now attempting to force a kind of thought apartheid onto the Palestinians. All over the world, Zionists build museums and memorials to their Holocaust and strive to put people in jail for what is more properly described as historical research, but which they call Holocaust denial or revisionism, an attempt to prohibit inquiry into even the more questionable aspects of the alleged events which took place in forced labor camps during the Nazi era. Yet the Israeli Knesset is now in the process of formulating a law designed to curtail or ban Palestinians from public remembrance of the Nakba, an Arabic word meaning disaster or catastrophe, and the word is now firmly related to the flight and expulsion of the Palestinians during the 1947 to 1948 war, to the massacres committed by Zionist Israeli forces, to the ongoing process of forced displacement, confiscation and destruction of their property, to the collapse of their society, and ultimately the loss of their homeland. But I somehow doubt that this little girl, whatever became of her, will rate a memorial to commemorate her suffering at the hands of the Israelis, because it seems that the only suffering they understand is their own, and that of their ancestors. And the latest example of the utter contempt that Israel has for the Palestinians and international public opinion was the announcement that it would continue building houses and other structures in the illegal Beitar elite settlement illicitly occupied by Israel since 1967, a further 1,600 of them to be precise, and the announcement was made at virtually the same moment that Vice President Joe Biden arrived in Israel on yet another US peace initiative, and follows hot on the heels of Israeli Apartheid Week, a worldwide campaign by supporters of Palestinians now in its 6th year. So for all the good his visit is likely to achieve in advancing the peace process,
I'm very pleased.
Prime Minister Netanyahu might just as well have snapped the Vice President in the face with a wet fish, demonstrating why the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, in spite of all its hopeful milestones during the last 20 years, has come to nothing. Because it is obvious that Israel does not want peace with the Palestinians or Iran or anyone else in the region. Zionist Israel is a pariah state, hell-bent on dominating the Middle East by stealth and dishonesty. And these people are not supreme practitioners of self-deception. They are knowingly aiding and abetting Israel in its illegal and immoral actions against the Palestinians, probably in return for election campaign contributions or other advantages that can only be guessed at, but certainly in defiance of a huge surge in worldwide public opinion against the actions of the sociopathic Israeli leadership, and the support they are receiving from the leaders of so-called civilized nations who persist in giving financial aid and moral support to Israel when they must know that by any standards of decency they are dead wrong to do so. There can be absolutely no doubt that Israel has created an inhuman, illegal, and utterly disgraceful apartheid state, and the international community will never be able to excuse itself if it takes no action against this blatant, ongoing, and in plain sight crime against humanity. Please join the millions of decent people around the world who are crying out against Israel's ongoing persecution of the Palestinians. Send the link to this video to your elected representative and make sure he or she does something about it. You have to ask yourself, if I keep quiet, will it ever end?